Chicago O'Hare Airport. So Hockey World. It's Friday, June 13th, and we're in the Chicago O'Hare Airport right now, en route to LA. I just had a few minutes. I don't know if I'm going to actually be able to do any other podcasts today, so I wanted to get a podcast in. And man, Russ Cohen like jumps on and just this is a man that you can call up in a moment's notice. He comes off the bench at any point. And thanks, Russ, for jumping on.
No problem. Yeah, as long as I keep my feet moving, right?
That's right, right. No question about it. So here we are. I sat next to you, and I'm so glad you came on because I actually wanted to have you on yesterday because I was talking to Matt Barry from LA, but I was talking about you yesterday because that was a fun game we watched there in New York.
Fun, agonizing, all those things. But yeah, it was good. I felt good for everybody in the crowd to get a couple goals, to finally be able to be excited. You know, the people who had to pay like $1,000 for that first game, they didn't get a lot of joy out of it.
No, they did not. And you just wonder. It's so interesting that, you know, we talked a little bit about LA had all the pressure of coming back. Yeah, and LA had like they flew in 150 people for the game.
Yeah.
For Game 4, and that always screws with them. You know, I really think that does. I just think at the end of the day,
you know what it makes me think
I know they have to do that.
I always go back to that '86 World Series where, you know, the Red Sox lit up the Hancock Building, and that was bad omen. Then they announced Bruce Hurst as the MVP. That was a bad omen because the game wasn't over. And yeah, we found out about these 160 people. We probably shouldn't have found out about it, but we did. And then we saw pictures of the champagne getting sent back. It adds to it, though. It always, it's okay. I see you're struggling with the camera. It always adds to the fun of it, I think.
It's okay. Yeah, no, it does add to the fun of it. And, you know, and of course, if you're a player, you're going to do this. You know, you're going to bring your family in, and you always wonder how they get there, you know, because we saw, you know, they travel once it's elimination time. And once your family's traveling with you, as anyone knows who has ever had the godforsaken opportunity to do business while traveling with family, it changes things.
Is your family watching this right now?
No, they don't. My niece is the only one who watches it. Hey, Bree. No, but, you know, I mean, I've traveled with family, you know, where you try to make business and pleasure trips. People all do this, you know, and it's a different world, you know, and it's nothing against your family, but yeah, it's hard. It's much easier to just do your thing, you know, and to just go when you're doing your job. And can't imagine the pressure of having to now, you know, try to win a Stanley Cup. It's a different thing,
like, you know. The Rangers bringing their families over to LA, so that's a good point.
Right, and the Rangers don't. I mean, they, you know, because think about, you know, the wives of these guys are like, oh, okay, we're gonna pick up the kids, we're gonna take the kids out of school, we're gonna fly them across the country. We're all going to be there, and you know, you better win this game. You know, and I think a lot of what we saw out of LA was they were definitely trying to win that game.
Oh yeah.
They were pouring it on. You know, they were pouring it on in a big way, and oh yeah, I think they played their best game in the series. Other people don't agree with it, but I really felt like it was.
I'll give you a weird
aspect. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think you're talking about the Rangers played the best game of the series. I agree with you, although. The last few games, we thought they got dominated on shots. They did.
Yeah. I mean, I really thought LA played their best game.
Oh, LA.
I thought, yeah, I did. And I felt like they just...
I guess offensively they might have, even though the shots didn't go in. So I guess I could see where you're coming from with that. But I don't know. Is it hard? It's hard for me to say they played their best game when they didn't score a lot, but then Lundqvist stopped 40 shots. So maybe you're right. Maybe you're right.
I don't know. They looked like they had more determination to me. I mean, having seen the various games, but tonight we've seen this before. I mean, what do you think? What kind of momentum? Is there any momentum here? Is there a better? Do the Rangers have a little bit?
Yeah, I think they feel better about themselves. Certainly, you know, with a win and knowing they could score a little bit, that makes them feel good. I don't know how much it goes in this game, though. I still think. When you have to travel across the country and you're the visiting team and they're the home team and they get to be home for a little while and you're in the hotel and everybody can come up with their spin, but I still think it's harder for the visiting team. I think they have a better chance than they did the other day, so there's a little hope. If they get out to the lead, then there might be more hope and it might snowball, and that's probably the hope of Ranger fans right there.
Yeah, I mean, for the Rangers, the lead is everything. It always is. I mean, that's their game, right? Their game is to get out to a lead and hold it. And what we saw in the first two games of the series was really uncharacteristic for the Rangers to give up leads.
It was, but I'll tell you, the one weird thing about this series that's coming from a lot of other fans, Bruins fans, Canadians fans, fans of the Blackhawks, they all seem to be mad at the Rangers, like they're not Stanley Cup worthy, or they're not playing this great Stanley Cup that they believe should be great. And yet, I looked at the first two games, and it's like, well, yeah, I know they gave up 2-goal leads, but a lot of great teams come back from being behind. In baseball and other sports, teams come back all the time, but they seem to be like maligning the Rangers for those first two games, and it's like they only lost by a goal in each of them, and it was really that close. Then there was one game where it was a blowout. It was a 3-0 blowout, and then last game they won. So it's really hard for me to say like the Rangers are not cup worthy or haven't played a good cup, because the games have been relatively tight. And so I don't know where that perspective's coming from, but it's out there. I don't know if you're hearing it, but I'm hearing it.
It's crazy. No, I'm with you, and it's crazy. It doesn't make any sense either, because when you think about the whole thing, the Rangers could have won. They could be up 3-1 themselves at this point easily. They played. I mean, they held the. And the one game that they got blown out, they kept the Kings to 15 shots. Yeah. So I mean, it's been four tight games. I mean, there were a couple bounces in Game 3, and that goes the other way. I mean, the Rangers could be flying their families across the country right now to try to wrap it up tonight. I mean, it's really that close. It's not, and that's why there's intrigue in this, and that's why I kind of am leaning. Every morning, I never try to predict a game. I know you hate predicting games. I never try to predict a game. But when I wake up in the morning, I'm like, okay, what am I going to do? Where am I thinking? And I always say to myself, okay, am I going to New York on Monday or not? In my head, I think, am I going there or not? Am I going to the shore this weekend with my family and not having to worry about Monday? And I couldn't get there. In my head, I kept thinking, I'm worrying about Monday.
I know.
I couldn't get it.
It's in the back of my mind. Certainly on Facebook, I'm telling people I'll see you on Monday. I mean, it's just the easy thing to say, but again, I think all we have to do is go back to the last Stanley Cup and see like how quickly goals could be scored and a cup could be clinched. And sometimes it could be in shocking sort of fashion too.
Yeah, that was shocking. I mean, that was more shocking than the last Cup final game was the weirdest. I mean, in the press box, the way we have to do things, we have to make our plane ticket.
Right.
We sit there usually waiting to press send, as the game comes down to the end. And we had them all ready to go go back to Chicago for Game 7, and suddenly within 90 seconds it was over. And that was the worst. The Hawks have won two very strange Stanley Cups when you think about it. They both ended in really odd ways. But I'm really expecting. I mean, again, the Kings. This is the game. When you look back historically, when teams who've blown 3-0 leads, or not many obviously, but teams that blow 3-1 leads, which happens a little more often, you can always go back to like Game 5. It's always the game you go back to. It's like they just didn't show up for Game 5. That for some reason I remember the Flyers losing to the Devils and they blew a 3-1 lead, and that was like a big thing back when the Lindros era, at the end of the Lindros era. And in general, you can look back to the Sharks-Kings series, Game 5. That's when the Sharks, there's that moment when that's the game. And because if the Rangers can pull it off tonight, suddenly it's like a Russian roulette. I mean, at that point, who knows?
Get a lot better chance. They certainly won't be like a plus 1,500 to win. I tweeted that out the other day. I saw after their loss, they were like plus 1,500, and I'm like, whoa. Somebody's
that's crazy.
Just for the heck of it, because there's
a lot of money riding there. Hey, Mike, how are you?
Hey, Ak. Hey, Ross. How's it going?
Good. How are you, Mike?
Pretty good.
I was lucky. I just grabbed Russ. I started the show because I know I'm kind of just doing this on the whim. I had a longer delay here than I was supposed to in Chicago, so I thought I would get. This might be the only chance because now I'm going to be delayed getting into LA. So we're doing this quick podcast here. But but yeah, I was saying like this is the game, right? This is the game that the Rangers. I mean, it goes without when you're down to your elimination game, sure, but when you look back historically, I always do feel like the Game 5 on the comeback games are the games that people always remember.
Yeah, especially
what if we should have won it.
Yeah, I think Mike would agree with that. You have Game 5 at home, so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Taking a page from that great hockey expert Mike Francesa, uh, if 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 the Rangers are heading back, if the Kings are heading back to New York, this is a new series. I mean, if the Rangers can somehow win tonight, then I think the pressure swings completely back on the Kings, just like it did on the Sharks after they lost Game 5 going to L.A. They took out Antti Niemi, put in Alex Stalock, and the pressure was really on them.
Yep.
So I think if the Rangers somehow can pull out the victory tonight, then we actually have a series. If not, obviously you're going to be on the ice watching them carry around the Stanley Cup back.
Yeah, we'll be doing a Google Hangout from the ice tonight, which will be fun. If you're around later after the game, I'll throw this out as well. So we'll do a Google Hangout from the ice. Looks like your dog's gonna leap through that window at any moment behind you.
No, she's gone now. Now she's back. She's doing other things. I'm gonna go let her out. I'll be right back.
No problem. Yeah. So for those of you who check in today, I'm doing stay on the Google use my Google Plus page and YouTube. I'm going to be popping up videos that I'm recording all day because as I'm doing this epic 27-hour day trip across the country and back. So I thought it would be fun to kind of shoot little videos along the way, and some of them might be from a really cool place tonight, and some might be having dinner with Matt Barry later, either a depressed or happy Matt Barry. So we don't know which way that'll go, but yeah, I mean, Mike, what are your thoughts on this whole game?
Well, I mean, I think that the Kings. I mean, even though the Rangers in some ways outplayed the Kings in the first two games, and the Kings found a way to come back and win, I mean, the pedigree of the Kings winning a Stanley Cup 2 years ago, playing the way that they've played so far, I would think that they would close it out tonight. But I thought they would close it out in 4. I thought they would have the killer instinct and deliver the killer blow in New York in Game 4, and I think they did everything they possibly could, putting 41 shots on Lundqvist. If Lundqvist stands on his head, and he really didn't do that in the first 2 games in LA, if he stands on his head, then they have a fighting chance. But
Right.
And we've been saying this all playoffs. They need their big guys to show up. They need Nash to show up. They need Richards to show up. And so far in the playoffs, in general, Nash has not shown up. Brad Richards is now on the 4th line, and I find a curious act that everybody ripped John Tortorella to shreds last year when he benched Brad Richards in the last game of the postseason. And now Alain Vigneault has demoted him to the 4th line, and there is nary a peep out of anybody that Brad Richards has been demoted.
No, that's a good point, and I think that Brad Richards just looks like we talked about this, Russ. He just looks like he's totally done. I mean, he's not skating, he's not playing hard at all.
Behind the play, people don't get to see it on TV, but behind the play, he's barely moving. I mean, he's making that occasional pass. He's trying to get in the offense, but when the puck goes the other way, he's just totally staying at the tip of the center ice and not really moving.
No,
you
Russ,
put it really well with a basketball player analogy, Russ. Tell people what that was. That was really interesting.
Yeah, and I used to do it because when you used to sort of need a breather in a game and you were playing a tough game, you could always slough back on defense and just sort of get a quick blow while the offense is sort of moving towards the net or someone's going to drive to the basket, and you sort of wait back on defense, and that's what he's sort of doing.
Russ, do you think that this is injury related? I mean, because and we'll find out after the series, if he's got some sort of injury that he's playing through it. I mean, do you think that it's injury related, or do you think this is just he's beaten up after now 4 rounds of the playoffs? He's 34 years old, I believe. This is just what he is this deep into a season.
I think it's just what he is. I mean, he might have a little nagging injury, but I think we saw this in Philly with Vinny Lecavalier, and it's just a really young man's league. And sometimes, and Lecavalier did have an injury early in the year, but as the year went on and the playoffs rolled on, he was rolling slower. And that is really GM should be paying attention, because for every GM that wants to sign a 30-something-year-old guy, this is what happens to 30-something-year-old guys when you hit the Stanley Cup. Most of them. I mean, that's and that's that's the gamble.
It's a great point, and with UFA Day, we're going to see the millions of dollars, and I'd throw like a name like Vanek out there, like if you really want to, I mean, this is Vanek in a couple of years in my mind, it's if not sooner, and he's going to get a ton of money or could get a ton of money, and Gabrick is at a revival.
The problem to me with the UFAs is that the GMs are all working from the same pool. Nothing's really changed in the talent pool. You might get a guy from Europe. You might get, everybody's signing a guy here from Europe and a guy here from college. But everybody is basically working from the same pool. Maybe one guy gets in the pool that you didn't expect that's really worthwhile, and the rest is you're buying talent that other teams gave up on because the cap went up. And so, I want to say it was back like 2001, the Rangers and Flyers were right around that $77 million mark, and in a couple of years, by next season, 2 years, they'll be there again, and will teams be that much better off for it? I'm not sure.
Yeah, well...
Yeah, it's hard to think they will be. Go ahead, Mike.
Yeah, I know that some teams, and Toronto is the team that I cover extensively. I know that a team like Toronto, who is one of the youngest teams in the NHL, is looking to add players with some veteran presence and experience. But I think that the trend in this league is going to go more towards those veteran guys, 30 plus, being third and fourth liners rather than top six forwards. Because, like you said, Russ, this is a young man's game, and these guys who are top six forwards have to play close to 20 minutes a game. And if they're going to play 20 minutes a game, they need the stamina and strength to be and durability to be able to last. And a guy like Brad Richards, a guy like Vanek, who has been through the wars with Buffalo. I mean, he's played through numerous injuries over a number of years. That takes its toll after a while, and you just can't. After a while, it slows you down, and it just beats you up.
It has to, and I think, Russ, Russ is a really big guy. You follow Russ online at Sportsology, and Russ is one of the best draft guys out there. For my money, he's my number one guy that I go to, and you usually see it Russ every year now that more and more players are just jumping right into the league. It seems like with the training, it seems like 18 and 19-year-olds are more and more impactful all the time.
Yeah, there's no question, and that's where, to me, the draft, ever since the cap, has become the most important thing for any organization, and organizations that haven't figured that out yet are sort of on the outside looking in now, because these guys are cap friendly for a lot of years, or at least for 3 years. So you look at that and you say, well, if I could get a guy that I can plug in, which isn't rare anymore, but it's still not the norm, then you're doing pretty well. I only think there's a couple of guys, 2-3 guys you could do that with this year. But again, if you're one of those teams, now you've added a player and saved yourself $6-7 million, where now you can get another player. So like for a team like Florida, how do you trade that pick? I couldn't trade that pick, because really, what am I going to get in return for that pick that's going to turn around this franchise? Probably nothing. And the player you get this year, even from that draft, isn't going to turn around your franchise. But if he plays, then you're in pretty good shape.
Well, Russ, the
Let's throw a hypothetical out for a second. I'm sorry, Mike. Just one hypothetical to you, Russ, in this situation. If Eric Staal is available to you for Florida, what do you do?
I say no. That's a crazy contract. I know he's got all the talent, but I wouldn't want a part of that Eric Staal contract.
Yeah, I'm kind of with you there.
Mike, go ahead. The indicators right now in terms of Florida is that the deal that would likely happen is a trade up. Like, say, Edmonton has the number 3 overall. They like Ekblad. They would trade the number 3 and a player to move up to number 1. Toronto has the number 8 pick. They want to get the number 1 pick. It would be the number 8 pick and Dion Phaneuf for the number 1. So they wouldn't be trading themselves out of the first round and giving up completely, not getting an 18-year-old player. But it's a question of whether Florida wants Ekblad or wants one of these 3 centers that are at the top of the draft, or if they're following through on what their owner is saying and they want to win now, and they have a goaltender who's 34 years old who's going to be good for maybe 2 or 3 more years before he's ready to retire.
Yeah, but remember, they went through this just as recently as with the Rick Nash-Bouwmeester draft, and they ultimately now they came out the big losers way down the road because they never held on to even Bowmeister. So if you went and sort of did the detective work and see how that all worked out for them and the picks that they gave up as well. Remember, Mike Keenan was mad at what they did. I wrote about it.
Right.
He wasn't happy with all that jostling around. Columbus are the ones who came out way ahead at that one, and you got to give them credit because they got Nash. They never had to swap that other pick down the road because Florida got the first-round pick again. Mm-hmm. So if you remember, they were supposed to swap them, and Columbus never had to do that swap.
Yeah, that's right. That was a crazy situation. That was something. Before we go, and I've got to board my plane. I appreciate you guys jumping on real quick. Again, I know they're going to board in like 5 minutes. I know I want to ask you one more thing about the game the other night, Russ, because you've gone to probably 400, 500 Rangers games in your life, I would guess. Some kind of crazy number, right?
A lot.
Where does that rank? In the top 10?
Yeah, I definitely would rank in the top 10, maybe even in the top 5, because of just the way the crowd was, the urgency, the desperation in the air, all of that, the way Lundqvist played. I mean, he certainly, is the top goalie they've ever had in their franchise, and that was maybe his finest game. You could always point at different games, maybe the Game 7 against Pittsburgh, but I think that was a bigger one.
Yeah, I mean, it was. I got into it, and I hate the Rangers. So, for me to get into it, I figured it had to be in your top 5. I mean, I was definitely told.
And especially the snow that Lundqvist builds up during the game. Let's not pretend that this is like something he's never done before. He does it every game, and it just happened to work out this time. And then everybody sort of acts like, wow, they've never seen this before. Yeah, well, Strawman was the other one.
Yeah.
Yeah,
but,
I know. I hear you. So.
Well,
that's awesome stuff.
All I have to say is that even if the Rangers lose tonight, I don't think Rangers fans have any reason to be dissatisfied with what this team did this year. I don't think anybody expected them to go this far, to make the finals, and they've played as well as they've played. And I will always be thankful for the New York Rangers for preventing the Montreal Canadiens from having a chance at winning their 25th Stanley Cup.
That's great.
Well, to say Rangers fans will be satisfied, I think is to not know Rangers fans, Mike.
Yeah, I mean, ultimately satisfied, no, but satisfied to the point where they could at least say their team had a pretty good season. They'll say that.
Right.
Maybe 5 years from now they'll say that. Maybe 5 years from now, like, hey, remember that year we went.
It's like Sophie's Choice now, because if the Rangers lose tonight, then the games, everything's over. The Kings celebrate. Hey, no big deal. But if the Rangers win and it comes back to New York, and then if the Kings were to win and celebrate, then it's even more devastating. So it is really like it's a tough choice.
Yeah, it's giving that hope and then snatching it away. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. At this point, I just want to see more hockey. So I'm good with it. I mean, I'm good with Monday. I don't know if I'm good with back. Yeah. I mean, I'm going home anyway. I was talking to EJ Ratzek about this, and we said, once you have a Game 5, you might as well have a Game 6. We're all going home anyway.
Right.
But,
that's true.
But if there's a Game 7, that's a different story. But obviously for Rangers, that would be a good thing. But for us, it would be a different thing. It'd be another 7.
But the fans don't give a crap about what the media thinks.
Oh, for sure.
And neither,
I'm perfect.
And neither does Daryl Sutter.
No.
No, Daryl Sutter surely doesn't. And I didn't steal the Anton Strawman placard, Russ. I thought about it, but I didn't steal it.
Oh, you didn't? That's too bad.
So
I'm kind of hoping that they'll do like a Mystery Science Theater 3000 with Daryl Sutter at the end of the Stanley Cup. I think there's some work to be done. Somebody could really have a gem on their hands.
Oh, in this day of the internet, if there's not a good mashup, there should be a mashup Daryl Sutter contest. I think we're going to do that, Russ. I think that's a good idea. I think we need to have a mashup Daryl Sutter that combines him and,
a Daryl Sutter reality.
Yeah, maybe Stan. Right. Someone needs to do the IM. Oh, you don't want to do that. But someone needs to do this. Someone needs to do the "Am I a Man" or "Am I a Muppet" song with Daryl Sutter. That's what I want to see.
I would like it. I
if I could
basically
edit video.
that he's Chauncey the gardener from the movie Being There. That's really who he is.
Yes.
You're dead on. That's dead on. Well, thank you guys so much. Thanks for watching, guys. Thanks for watching the podcast. I'm about to board my plane
Safe trip.
to LA. And thanks. And make sure you keep checking in on my Google Plus page, which is Google Plus Kelly Eklund, and just check the link on the blog. I'll be putting up little pics, little quick videos all day. Some will get up on the YouTube page too, which will be good. And then tonight after the game, I'm also going to be putting up a rumor blog from the plane with the Wi-Fi, hopefully. And then tonight after the game, if we go on the ice, we'll be doing another Google Hangout from there, and I'll just be inviting everybody. So anyone who's around, if you're around Russ or anybody else, I'll invite Bill Melstern to see whatever's around. We'll go on the ice and we'll try to have some fun there too. So. All right, you got it. All right, thank you so much, guys. Remember, without the buzz, it's just hockey. See you in Los Angeles.